You've been running, haven't you? Running in circles, trying to figure out how it's all going to work out, how the bills will be paid, how the healing will come, how the pieces will fall into place. You've been fighting battles in your mind that God already won in eternity. And now you're tired. Not just physically tired, but that deep soul weariness that makes you question if you're still walking in purpose or just trying to survive another day. But hear me when I say this. God said, relax. Everything will come to you. Because sometimes faith doesn't look like fighting. Sometimes faith looks like resting. It looks like trusting that the same God who opened the Red Sea can open doors you've never seen. It looks like believing that what's meant for you won't miss you, even if it's taking longer than you thought. See, you've been busy trying to make things happen when God is trying to make you ready. You've been trying to force what only favor can release. This is the season where God is calling you to be still, not because he's forgotten you, but because he's positioning you. You've been asking him to move mountains, and he's been asking you to sit in his presence. Because when you finally stop striving, when you finally stop chasing what's already yours, you'll see that everything you've been waiting for was never running away from you. It was being prepared for you. You've got to let go of the anxiety that makes you feel like you're behind. You've got to release the control that convinces you that if you don't handle it, it won't happen. God didn't call you to carry the world. He called you to trust the one who holds it. And if you could just exhale, if you could just breathe and lean back into his promises, you would realize that everything you've been praying for is already in motion. So no, this isn't your breakdown, it's your divine pause. This isn't the end of your story, it's the moment before manifestation. God said, relax. Because what's yours is not slipping away. It's simply aligning itself with divine timing. And when it arrives, it won't come with struggle. It won't come with confusion. It won't come with chaos. It'll come with peace, because peace is the signature of God's provision. Rest is not weakness, it's worship. And I know that goes against everything this world teaches us. We live in a culture that glorifies the grind, that tells you if you're not constantly moving, you're losing. But God's kingdom doesn't operate like the world system. In God's kingdom, rest is not a reward. It's a reflection of trust. When you choose to rest, you're saying, God, I believe you're still working even when I'm not. Because rest doesn't mean inactivity, it means intentional faith. It means that while your hands are still, your heart is anchored in his promise. It means you understand that your worth is not tied to your work and your identity is not built on your performance. Rest says, I am not my results. I am not my schedule. I am not my productivity. I am his. There are seasons where God will strip you from the rhythm of doing so that he can reset you into the rhythm of being. And that's hard because we equate motion with meaning. We think if we're not moving, nothing's happening. But can I tell you that sometimes your stillness is the loudest expression of your faith? Because it's easy to worship when everything's falling into place. But it's another level of trust when you can worship in silence, when you can rest while nothing looks like it's working. God doesn't need your hustle to prove his help. He doesn't need your exhaustion to show your devotion. What he's after is your surrender. When you rest, you're declaring that you know who your source is. You're reminding yourself that you are not the provider, you are not the protector, you are not the planner of every outcome. God is. You're saying, I'm going to stop acting like I have to be God in my own life. And maybe that's where God is calling you back to stillness, back to peace. Back to that quiet place where you don't have to perform to be loved. You don't have to strive to be chosen, because striving is what you do when you've forgotten who you are. But resting is what you do when you remember whose you are. Some of you have been in a constant battle with burnout because you've been trying to do God's job. You've been trying to control outcomes, fix people, open doors, and force blessings, and God is whispering, rest. Because every time you refuse to rest, you're saying, I don't trust you to handle this. But every time you rest, you're saying, God, you've got this. And that's worship. That's the kind of worship that doesn't need music or microphones. It's the quiet worship of trust. It's when your heart says, I still believe even though I can't see. It's when your soul says, I still trust even though I don't understand. There's a peace that only comes when you rest in the assurance that God is working behind the scenes. You might not see it yet, but just because you can't trace his hand doesn't mean you can't trust his heart. And maybe you've been afraid that if you stop pushing, things will fall apart. But God is saying, child, if it depends on your push, it was never built on my promise. Because when something is built by God, it's sustained by grace, not grind. It's sustained by his timing, not your timeline. That's why he commands us to rest, not because he needs us to stop moving, but because he needs us to start trusting. Look at Jesus, even he rested. In the middle of a storm, when waves were crashing and the disciples were panicking, Jesus was asleep in the boat. That wasn't because he didn't care, it was because he trusted. His rest was his revelation. It showed that no storm can shake the one who knows who's in control. And that's what God wants for you, that you would rest in his sovereignty, even when the winds are wild. Because rest says, I know my God's got me. You've been exhausting yourself, trying to make everything happen. You've been anxious because you think rest will make you fall behind. But God is saying you're not behind, you're being hidden. Hidden doesn't mean forgotten, it means protected. Sometimes rest is the shield God gives you from battles that aren't yours to fight. Sometimes he'll sit you down so he can go ahead of you and prepare the way. But if you don't rest, you'll walk into a season he hasn't finished building yet. Rest is where revelation grows. Rest is where clarity comes. Have you ever noticed that when you're still, you can finally hear? That's because your spirit isn't supposed to compete with your schedule. God speaks in the quiet. And maybe that's why the enemy fights your rest so hard. Because he knows if you ever stop long enough to listen, you'll remember who you are. You'll remember that you're chosen, you're called, and you're covered. The enemy doesn't mind your activity. He fears your alignment. And rest aligns you back with heaven's rhythm. Resting doesn't mean you're lazy. It means you're wise. It means you understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. It means you're choosing longevity over urgency, purpose over pressure. Because when you rest, you give God space to refill you. You let him breathe life into dry bones and remind you that the same God who started the work is faithful to finish it. Rest allows your heart to reset, your mind to realign, and your spirit to reconnect. It's the pause that prepares you for power. Some of you are praying for strength when God is trying to give you stillness. You're praying for more opportunities when he's trying to give you peace. You're asking him to open doors when he's saying, sit with me first. Because he knows that rest reveals what hustle hides. When you slow down, you start to see what's been draining you, what's been distracting you, and what's been defining you that shouldn't. Rest brings truth to the surface. It exposes what striving has buried. And that truth will set you free. You've been taught that rest is a reward after the work, but in the kingdom, rest is what fuels the work. It's what fills you so you can pour again. It's what reminds you that you're not a machine, you're a masterpiece. And masterpieces aren't made in chaos. They're formed in stillness. So if you're in a season where God has slowed everything down, don't resent it, receive it. Because rest is not punishment, it's preparation. He's preparing your spirit to hold what your hands have been praying for. There are miracles waiting on the other side of your rest, doors that will swing open not because you kicked them down, but because you waited with worship. Opportunities that will meet you in peace instead of panic. Relationships that will find you when you're no longer chasing validation. Rest teaches you how to receive, because when you stop trying to earn what God already gave, you finally start to live in grace. Rest is not weakness, it's warfare, because when you rest, you resist the enemy's lie that says you have to do it all by yourself. When you rest, you silence the fear that says you're not enough. You say, I will not bow to busyness. I will not worship worry. I will not let anxiety set my agenda. Rest is your declaration that your life belongs to God, not your deadlines. It's your holy rebellion against the noise that tries to keep you from peace. And in that stillness, you'll find strength you didn't know you had. So let this be your reminder today. You don't have to hustle for what's holy. You don't have to strive for what's already secured. Rest is your act of faith. It's your way of saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my plans. And when you do that, you invite heaven to move on your behalf. Because the moment you rest in his promise, you give him permission to reveal his power. What's meant for you is being prepared for you. That's the kind of truth that doesn't just comfort you, it changes the way you carry yourself in the waiting. Because so many of us live like everything depends on our timing, on our hustle, on our ability to make it happen. But the truth is, you are not waiting for blessings to be created. You are waiting for blessings to mature. You are not waiting for God to figure it out. You are waiting for God to figure it out. You are waiting for God to figure it out. You are waiting for God to figure it out. You are waiting for God to figure it out. You are waiting for God to figure it out. You are waiting for God to figure it out. The path has already been written. It's just that the preparation process takes time. What's meant for you is not missing you, it's maturing for you. It's becoming what it needs to be so that when it finally reaches you, it won't harm you, it will hold you. It won't break you, it will bless you. Because God never delivers promise without preparation. And that's why sometimes it feels like nothing is moving. That's why doors seem closed, calls go unanswered, and prayers echo in silence. It's not because God said no. It's because he's still saying not yet. Because what he's preparing is bigger than what you're expecting. He's not just giving you a moment, he's building a lifetime. He's aligning people, timing, and opportunities that you can't see yet. You're frustrated because you want it now, but he's protecting you because you're not ready yet. The promise is not just about arrival, it's about becoming. And sometimes God will hold back what's yours until you grow into the version of yourself that can sustain it. When you understand that what's meant for you is being prepared for you, you stop competing with others. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel because you realize their blessing was designed for their blueprint. You can't envy someone else's harvest when you don't know the cost of their seed. And you can't rush your own harvest when the soil is still being nourished. God doesn't work in panic. He works in process. You may feel delayed, but you're not denied. What he has for you has your name on it, and no one else can occupy it. That's why when you see others walking into their season, don't get discouraged. Celebrate. Because if God is blessing your neighbor, it means he's in your neighborhood. Sometimes the waiting season is not punishment, it's protection. God will not hand you something holy if you're still holding on to something harmful. He will not release a kingdom promise into a chaotic heart. So while you're waiting, he's pruning. While you're waiting, he's healing. While you're waiting, he's removing the counterfeit things that could contaminate the real thing. Because preparation is not just about what God is doing around you. It's about what he's doing in you. He's making sure your heart can handle what your hands have been praying for. He's building patience in you so you don't destroy the blessing with your impulsiveness. He's building wisdom in you so you don't misuse the opportunities he's sending. What's meant for you isn't coming to an unprepared version of you. It's coming to a developed one. And that's why you can't get distracted by delay, because delay doesn't mean defeat. It means development. God's not making you wait because he's ignoring you. He's making you wait because he's involving you. He's writing your story in such a way that when it unfolds, it won't just bless you, it'll bless others through you. You'll look back one day and realize that the detours were directions, the no's were necessary. The closed doors were actually covering you, because every time you thought you were losing something, you were really being led to something better. The heartbreak that made you cry is the same heartbreak that made you pray. And those prayers became the foundation of the blessing that's now on the way. Sometimes God delays the dream to develop the dreamer. He can't give you the platform if your character can't hold the weight of influence. He can't send the relationship if your identity is still rooted in insecurity. He can't open the door if your pride will make you think you did it by yourself. That's why some seasons feel heavy, not because God is punishing you, but because he's preparing you. The weight you're carrying is not just a burden, it's building strength in you. Because when the blessing comes, it won't just require faith, it'll require endurance, maturity, humility, and discernment. Preparation builds those things in you quietly while no one is watching. There are moments when you'll feel like everyone else is moving ahead and you're standing still, but you're not standing still, you're standing in process. And process always precedes promise. You can't plant a seed today and expect fruit tomorrow. Growth takes time, and sometimes God allows you to sit in stillness because he's working on the unseen. He's shifting things in the background, aligning pieces that you don't even know exist yet. He's preparing opportunities that will meet you at the right time in the right place with the right people. And when it happens, you'll realize that every silent season was strategic. What's meant for you carries divine coordinates. It knows where to find you. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to compete for it, and you don't have to compromise to get it. God's promise has perfect GPS. It will locate you when you're aligned with purpose. You could be in the wilderness and still be found. You could be hidden and still be chosen. You could be overlooked by people and still be positioned by heaven. That's why your focus in the waiting season should never be on what's missing, but on what's being made. Because while you're asking God, when will it happen? He's asking, will you trust me while I build it? When God is preparing something for you, he's also preparing you for it. That's a two-way process. He's refining your faith, reshaping your mindset, and removing your fears so that when the blessing comes, you can receive it with confidence, not confusion. You'll be able to steward it with wisdom instead of sabotaging it with worry. Because if he gives it to you too soon, it could overwhelm you instead of empower you. So his delay is your protection. His timing is not punishment, it's precision. Every step, every season, every silent prayer has purpose woven into it. And nothing that is meant for you can pass you by when you're walking in obedience. And I know there are days when it feels like everyone else is living the dream while you're just trying to survive. But what if your dream is still in development? What if God is still adding the finishing touches? You may not see the masterpiece yet because you're still looking at the brush strokes. But the same hands that painted the stars are painting your story. And when he's done, you'll understand why he took his time. Because rushed blessings fade fast, but prepared ones last forever. God is not just giving you blessings, he's building legacy. What he's preparing for you isn't a momentary miracle, it's a movement. It's something that will ripple through generations, and that kind of blessing takes time. That kind of preparation requires patience. You might be praying for a door, but God is constructing a whole hallway. You might be asking for a chance, but he's setting up a chain reaction. He's doing more than you asked for, but it's taking longer than you expected, because divine preparation doesn't operate on deadlines, it operates on destiny. When you start to live with that understanding, peace becomes your posture. You stop rushing, you stop begging, you start trusting. You realize that what's for you will never require you to compromise who you are to get it. You won't have to manipulate. You won't have to plead. You won't have to pretend, because what's meant for you comes with peace. It aligns effortlessly because it's been designed for you. And when it shows up, you won't have to question if it's yours. You'll just know. It'll carry a familiar feeling, a divine confirmation that says, this is what I've been waiting for. The preparation process is not comfortable, but it's crucial. It breaks pride, builds faith, and deepens dependence on God. It teaches you that just because you can't see progress doesn't mean it's not happening. Growth in God often happens underground, where roots go deep before fruit shows up. So if it looks like nothing is happening, trust that everything is happening. Trust that every closed door is divine redirection, every delay is development, and every disappointment is deliverance in disguise, because God's preparation doesn't fail, it fulfills. So keep showing up in faith even when you don't see results. Keep praising even when it feels pointless. Keep sowing even when the soil seems dry, because preparation seasons are proving grounds for your faith. And when you remain faithful there, you position yourself for overflow. When what's meant for you finally arrives, it will not come empty. It will come complete, complete with wisdom, grace, peace, and purpose. And you'll realize that it didn't come late. It came right on time. Because God doesn't miss appointments with destiny. What's meant for you is not running away from you. It's being refined. It's being aligned. It's being prepared for you. Faith doesn't chase. It trusts divine timing, because chasing is what you do when you believe that what you desire might escape you. Chasing is what you do when you think that if you don't run after it, you'll miss it. But faith doesn't chase. Faith stands still, anchored in the confidence that what God has spoken will not return void. Faith understands that divine timing is not random, it's orchestrated. It's intentional. It's a symphony of moments where every note of your life is tuned to the melody of God's purpose. Faith says, I don't have to run after it, because if it's meant for me, it's already moving toward me. It's not passive. It's peaceful. It's not lazy. It's aligned. It's the calm in the waiting that knows heaven's clock never runs late. When you learn to trust divine timing, you stop living from a place of panic. You stop comparing yourself to the pace of others. You stop scrolling through social media wondering why everyone else seems to be further ahead, because faith knows that timing is not uniform. God is not building everyone's destiny on the same schedule. What he's doing in your life might take longer because it's being built to last longer. And sometimes the reason it's taking time is because he's layering your foundation deeper than others. You can't rush divine architecture. You can't microwave purpose. The process of preparation is sacred because it ensures stability. Faith doesn't get jealous of someone else's season because it knows that divine timing customizes miracles. What took someone a year might take you 10, but it'll be 10 years that shape you, strengthen you, and sanctify you. Faith doesn't chase because it trusts the character of the one who promised. When God makes a promise, he doesn't consult your schedule. He consults your purpose. He knows when the blessing will build you and when it would break you. That's why sometimes he delays what you want to deliver what you need, because the God of timing is also the God of order. And he will never allow your promise to come before your preparation. Faith knows that delay is not denial, it's development. Every waiting season is working something inside you that you will need when the promise comes. And the very thing that frustrates you right now, the waiting, the uncertainty, the silence, is what's refining your discernment, your patience, your trust. Faith says, I don't need to chase what's already chosen me. There's a difference between moving in faith and chasing in fear. Faith moves when God says move. Fear runs because it doesn't trust the process. Fear says, if I don't do it now, I'll miss my moment. Faith says, if it's my moment, nothing can make me miss it. Fear says, I need to force it. Faith says, I'll flow with it. And that's what divine timing teaches you. It teaches you flow. It teaches you that God's rhythm is not rushed. It's measured, it's patient, it's precise. The same God who set the sun, moon, and stars on schedule has also set your destiny on divine timing. You don't have to chase what heaven has already aligned. You just have to stay positioned. Trusting divine timing means surrendering your timeline. It means releasing the idea that your life should look a certain way by a certain age or by a certain season, because sometimes God will delay a blessing to deliver you from pride. Sometimes he'll hold back an opportunity to heal an insecurity. Sometimes he'll make you wait so that when it arrives, you'll know it was him and not you. Divine timing isn't just about the right moment. It's about the right maturity. God wants to make sure that when it comes, you can handle it with humility, gratitude, and grace. Faith says, even if I don't see it yet, I know it's coming. It's a settled confidence that refuses to chase what God has already promised. You've got to understand that chasing drains you, but trusting fills you. Chasing wears you out because it's rooted in fear, fear of being overlooked, fear of being forgotten, fear of being too late. But faith is fueled by peace. When you trust God's timing, you stop striving for what's already secured. You stop trying to manipulate outcomes. You stop forcing connections, because anything you have to force will eventually fall apart. But anything birthed by divine timing will flow with grace. It will come with ease, not anxiety. It will align with peace, not pressure. Because the blessing of the Lord makes you rich and adds no sorrow with it. That's how you'll know it's divine timing. It won't require you to lose your peace to gain your promise. Faith that trusts divine timing learns how to rest while it's waiting. It learns how to praise in the pause. It learns how to be productive without being pressured. You can be faithful in the waiting season without being frantic. You can build while you wait. You can prepare your heart, your mind, your spirit for what's coming, because waiting is not wasted when you wait with worship. Faith doesn't sit still out of fear. It sits still out of trust. It's like saying, God, I don't know when, but I know you. I don't know how, but I know you. That kind of faith transforms the waiting room into a place of worship. It turns delay into devotion, because every moment you choose peace over panic, you're showing heaven that you're ready for what's next. Sometimes divine timing looks like disappointment, because you thought something was meant for you, but it didn't work out. And you felt like God was silent when you needed him to move. But what if that closed door was mercy in disguise? What if that not yet was protection from what could have destroyed your peace? Faith doesn't chase the door that closed. It trusts that if it shut, it wasn't the right one. Divine timing sometimes lets you lose what you wanted so you can gain what you need. Because God sees the whole picture while you're just holding one piece. And that's why faith requires surrender. Surrendering your plan for his purpose. Surrendering your timing for his truth. Because when you release control, you make room for divine orchestration. Trusting divine timing doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means you stop doubting. It means you wake up every day expecting, not exhausting yourself. It means you live like the promise could show up any minute, but love the process, even if it takes years. It means you walk in purpose now, not later. You don't wait for the breakthrough to start believing. You live like it's already on the way, because you know God is faithful to complete what he began. Faith doesn't chase the outcome. It cultivates obedience. Because divine timing doesn't just deliver things to you, it develops things in you. It's not about getting what you want fast. It's about growing into what God wants you to become. There will be moments when impatience tries to whisper, you're running out of time, but faith will answer, God controls time. There will be days when you look at others succeeding and wonder, when is it my turn? But faith will remind you, my turn is coming and it will be right on time. Faith doesn't rush what God is still writing, because the author of your life doesn't make typos. Every delay has a divine reason. Every slow season has a sacred purpose. Every wait has a weight that strengthens your spirit. And one day, when the promise manifests, you'll realize that God didn't just make you wait, He made you ready. Faith that trusts divine timing walks in peace even when nothing makes sense. It looks at chaos and says, God is still in control. It looks at setbacks and says, this is still working for my good. It looks at rejection and says, I must be being redirected, because when you truly trust divine timing, nothing can shake your peace. You stop running after things that don't belong to you and start attracting what does. You realize that what's meant for you can't be stolen, delayed, or denied. It can only be delivered. And when it comes, it won't just come to you, it'll come through you, blessing everyone connected to you. You don't have to chase opportunities when you trust the one who opens doors. You don't have to chase people when you trust the one who aligns relationships. You don't have to chase success when you trust the one who defines purpose. Divine timing ensures that you meet the right people at the right time, that you walk through the right doors in the right season, that you're positioned exactly where you need to be when heaven says now. That's why faith can rest even when it doesn't see movement, because movement in the natural isn't the measure of progress in the spiritual. Sometimes the silence of heaven means God is setting the stage. When you stop chasing, you start receiving. You start noticing how peace begins to fill the spaces that fear once occupied. You start to see that the very things you used to chase now start finding their way to you, because God's order is attraction, not pursuit. When you're aligned with divine timing, what's yours recognizes you. It sees your preparation, it senses your growth, and it gravitates toward your spirit. It's the beauty of trusting divine timing. It transforms the way you live. You stop striving and start flowing. You stop fearing and start flourishing. You stop wondering if it will happen and start knowing that it's already in motion. And maybe that's what God is trying to teach you right now, to stop chasing and start trusting. To stop doubting His delay and start embracing His design. Because when you trust divine timing, you realize that every waiting season has a purpose. Every detour has direction, and every delay has destiny hidden inside it. You don't need to chase anything that God has already written in your story. It's coming, it's being prepared. And when it arrives, it will fit. It will make sense. It will feel like grace, not grind. Because faith doesn't chase, it trusts that divine timing never fails. Peace is the evidence of God's provision. When God provides, He doesn't just hand you the thing you prayed for, He surrounds it with peace. Peace is His signature, His stamp that says, this came from me. Because there are blessings that look good but don't feel right. Opportunities that look promising but carry pressure. Relationships that look divine but disturb your spirit. And when you have peace, you have discernment. You begin to recognize that everything good isn't God and everything delayed isn't denial. Peace becomes the compass that guides you through confusion. The quiet assurance that reminds you, this is where I'm supposed to be. It's not the loud signs that confirm God's provision. It's the stillness of your spirit when you walk in His will. Peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of God. You can have chaos all around you and still rest, because your heart is anchored in the truth that God is in control. When He provides, He doesn't remove every storm, but He gives you calm within it. That calm is your confirmation. Because the same God who fed the 5,000 didn't stop the wind from blowing. He taught His disciples how to trust Him through it. And that's what peace does. It anchors you when the waves rise. It steadies you when the world shakes. It whispers you're covered when everything else screams uncertainty. Peace doesn't mean everything makes sense. It means everything is surrendered. It's not logical, it's spiritual. It's not earned, it's received. You can't fake the kind of peace that comes from God. It's too deep, too still, too steady to be humanly manufactured. There are moments when provision won't look like what you expected. Sometimes God provides through separation, sometimes through silence, sometimes through subtraction. You'll lose a job and he'll use it to redirect you to purpose. You'll lose a relationship and he'll use it to restore your identity. And though the loss hurts, peace shows up in the middle of it, reminding you that this ending was divine. Because when God removes something, he always replaces it with something better. Peace is the evidence that says this loss won't destroy me, it's delivering me. It's the quiet strength that helps you rest in uncertainty, knowing that the same God who closed this door is the one who knows what's behind the next. Sometimes peace shows up as a whisper in a noisy season. When you're surrounded by voices, opinions, and pressure to make decisions, peace will become your navigation system. It will tell you when to move and when to stay still. It will tell you when to say yes and when to walk away. Because peace doesn't confuse you, it clarifies you. It doesn't rush you, it roots you. When something is from God, it carries rest, not resistance. It comes with order, not overwhelm. It doesn't require you to sacrifice your peace to keep it. And that's how you know when God has provided. His provision aligns with his presence. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive for your purpose. Peace is the fruit of trust. When you trust that God is providing, even when you don't see it, your heart settles. Anxiety can't take root where trust has been planted, because peace is not built on outcomes, it's built on obedience. It's not about having everything figured out, it's about knowing that even if you don't, God does. You can rest because you know he's working. You can be still because you know he's sovereign. And that's the place where miracles happen, not in the rush, but in the rest. God's provision flows into peaceful hearts because peace is the proof that you've let go of control. The moment you stop fighting to figure it all out, you make space for God to fill what your strength couldn't. There's a level of maturity that comes when you stop chasing provision and start recognizing it. Because God provides in ways that don't always look like abundance. Sometimes his provision is the strength to endure. Sometimes it's the wisdom to wait. Sometimes it's the clarity to walk away. And though it doesn't always come wrapped in comfort, peace confirms that it's still good. Peace tells you that even if you don't have all the answers, you still have access to the answer. It quiets the storm within you so you can see what God is doing around you. Peace doesn't just fill the gaps. It becomes the evidence that the gaps don't control you anymore. There will be seasons where provision looks delayed, where you'll wonder, God, where are you? Do you even see what I'm going through? But peace will whisper, he's already there. Peace will remind you that provision is not just about possessions, it's about presence. Because if God is with you, you already have what you need. The Israelites had manna every morning, not because they worked for it, but because God provided daily. And when they tried to store it out of fear, it spoiled. That's what happens when you don't trust divine provision. Fear makes you hoard, but peace teaches you to rest. Peace says, I don't need to rush tomorrow because the same God who provided today will show up again. Peace is also the weapon of the believer. It confuses the enemy. The enemy expects your breakdown, not your composure. He expects your panic, not your praise. But when you walk in peace, you become untouchable. Because peace means your spirit is untangled from the chaos. It means you've chosen faith over fear. The enemy can't manipulate a mind that's at rest. He can't invade a heart that's at peace. That's why the Bible calls peace a guard. It protects your heart and your mind. When God provides, he doesn't just give you things. He gives you protection. And peace is his covering. It surrounds you like armor, allowing you to move through life unshaken. And maybe you've been praying for provision in a specific area, finances, healing, relationships. But God's been giving you peace instead. That peace is not a consolation prize. It's confirmation that He's already made a way, because peace always arrives before the manifestation. It's the sign that heaven has heard you. When you feel that calm settle in your spirit, when you stop worrying about how it will happen, that's when God is saying, it's handled. Peace precedes provision. It's the invisible sign that something in the spiritual is already shifting. You may not see the evidence yet, but peace tells you that the evidence is on the way. Peace also transforms the way you perceive provision. You stop measuring God's faithfulness by how much you have and start recognizing it in how steady you feel, because true provision isn't about accumulation, it's about alignment. It's about being in the right place at the right time with the right heart. It's about walking in purpose without panic. And when you live in that rhythm, peace becomes your permanent state, not just your occasional experience. You stop reacting to life and start responding with trust. You stop worrying about losing things because you realize that what God provides can't be taken. It can only be multiplied. Peace is also proof that you've learned to let go, because provision can't fill hands that are still clinging to fear. You've got to release your grip on control, on outcomes, on old expectations so that peace can flow freely. Sometimes peace is delayed because you're still holding on to things that don't belong in your next season. You can't step into divine provision while carrying old burdens. God is saying, let it go, and I'll replace it with what's better. Peace doesn't come from getting everything you want. It comes from trusting that you'll have everything you need. And when you believe that, your spirit settles. You stop striving, you stop stressing, and you start seeing provision show up in places you never expected. Peace is the evidence that your faith is working. When you can walk through uncertainty without losing your calm, that's provision. When you can face storms and still rest, that's provision. When you can look at lack and still declare abundance,